What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Practical Wedding Photography. I'm Garrett. Today I wanted to show you what you can do at a wedding with a 14mm lens. I used Bauer's version. There are a couple different versions that you'll find on Amazon, B&H, Adorama, all those websites. There's Bauer, there's Samyang, and there's Rokinon. They're all the same company. They come from the same parent company. They just market them differently to kind of create a brand loyalty. Each one is priced a little bit differently. The Bauer was the cheapest at the store that I was at, so I went with that one. The builds are exactly the same. All the specs are pretty much 100% the same. This lens is a manual focus, manual aperture lens, so it brings you back to the film days before you had any kind of automatic anything. Here's my phone. So you have an aperture ring, if you can hear, goes from 2.8 up in stops, full stops. Actually, it looks like half stops. Anyway, 2.8, 4, 5.8, 6, 8, 11, 16, 22. First things first, let me kind of go over some of the specs that you'll get on Lightroom with this lens, the 14mm lens. One thing that I really don't like about it is that it doesn't show your aperture here. So you kind of have to remember what you used. Not that it's such a hassle, it's just kind of nice to see where you can improve or what's working for you when you're done with your shoot. Obviously it's not going to show your focal length because it's going to be consistently 14. But you do get your ISO and your shutter speed, which is nice. And the reason behind that is because the aperture is controlled on your lens instead of your camera. So here we go. We have a preparation photo here. And the 14mm is really great for tight spaces. So you can see this is kind of a small room and there's stuff all over the floor. Mom's in the corner here on her phone. But what's really the focus of the photo here is the bride getting her hair done. And I kind of wanted to incorporate everything that was going on because it was such a small room and that was one of the topics that they were talking about during the day. So it's something they can look back on and say, it was such a small room, how did we all get ready there? Remember what a hassle that was, blah, blah, blah. Just something to enhance their memory of the day. And I don't do a lot of prep photos with my 14mm, but when I do find the opportunity, I like to use it. And this was one of those opportunities. And let's go over here. We have a dress shot. This wedding was at the bride's parents' lake house. So I figured let's incorporate the whole scene here. We have the lake in the back on this side. You can see the sky peeking through. There's some trees in the woods. And I found a branch to hang the dress on. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. You can see it is in focus. Probably could be a tad bit sharper, but hey. It's a 14mm photo and it's only about 5% of the photo right here that we're looking at. So again, this is practical wedding photography. It's not perfect wedding photography. So this totally works for me and I think it worked for the bride too. She didn't complain when she saw this photo when I delivered it to her, so A+. Let's jump to the ceremony now, and as you can see, it was a beautiful day, so I wanted to capture that. And you could probably use a 24mm or 35mm and still get it, but this lens really allows you to show the entirety of the scene. So you have the crowd, the guests in the audience here. You have the aisle, the flower petals, the chuppah, the sky, and of course the green trees. Just really sets the scene, sets the tone for the rest of the ceremony photos. So what I do is, normally once the bride and groom are standing up at the front, I'll run to the back, get out my 14mm real quick, snap off maybe 4 or 5 photos, and then be done with it for the ceremony. And I'll use the rest of my lenses for the rest of the time of the ceremony. Alright, so I'm not going to count the people here, but there are quite a lot. And don't mind the highlights and stuff here. This is a pretty weird spot to be photographing. But this is one way to be able to get everybody in frame at once. And especially when you're kind of constricted on space, you can't move back anymore. You're not going to be able to zoom out if you're using something like a 35mm or 24mm lens. So when you're in a pinch for family photos like this, 14mm is excellent. Alright, I'm going to jump over to some portraits now. And this is where I get my most confusion when I tell people that I use a 14mm lens for weddings. How do you do portraits with them? Well, this is how. I was working with another photographer at this point, working for him. So he was focusing on getting the tight shot of their face. And I kind of wanted to show the whole picture here, so you can see the light coming from the skylight here. You get the bricks on the wall, the darkness over here, the soft light falling from the skylight to the floor, and of course you get the couple. It has some pretty nice tones, I think. Let's see. Pretty sharp enough for me. Someone in one of my last videos, I think it was one of the Tamron ones, said that Tamron should make their slogan "sharp enough." I guess I said it a lot in that video, but it's true. It is sharp enough for me. Thought that comment was pretty funny. Alright, let's jump ahead a little bit. You can see there's really beautiful architecture here, very colonial style. There's some nice decoration on the ceilings, and I was the second shooter at this wedding, so I decided to stay close and incorporate all of the architecture, all the decoration into this portrait, while my main shooter was behind me about 30 feet with his 70-200, getting a more close-up photo of their faces. And again, it's not the most flattering pose or anything, but that's not what this photo is about. This is about what was going on around them. I think I've used this in one of the videos before, but this was another instance where I was the second shooter and my main shooter was behind me, shooting with a long, kind of grabbing, whoa, what's going on here? Those are for later. Grabbing, this area here, if it was, we'll zoom in. So this is kind of what he was getting, and I decided to kind of take a wider approach so that you can see the sky, the little aisle that she was on, the grass, the flowers that she was standing in between. And it's a nice change of pace. I'm not saying this is the greatest photo ever, but it works and it's practical to me, and I think my clients are happy with it. If they weren't, they wouldn't hire me. Here's another instance where they were in love with the venue, so I wanted to show off everything that venue had to offer, from the rock walls to the brick stairs to the colonial White House, from the trees to the sky. It was a beautiful day. You get everything, and then as a bonus, I guess you get the couple. So again, portraits with a 14mm lens are totally doable. They're a lot easier than it may seem, because you don't have to worry about, staying within your 2.8 and worrying about focus or anything like that. I usually shoot my portraits at maybe 4 to, f4 to f8, because you're not going to get depth of field at 14mm, so why even worry about shooting wide open at that point? If you have the light, use it and allow yourself a little bit more room for error. Alright, so now we have some reception photos, and as I said, I set my focal length to about 3 feet, and then I'll kind of just leave my arm at where I think 3 feet is and shoot away from there. I shoot receptions at 2.8 to allow in the most light, and when you're off, like I said, when you're off at 2.8 with a 14mm lens, it's not going to really show as much as if you were using something like a 35 or a 24 or a 20 or something like that. So as you can see, it's a very, very wide angle of view, and it kind of shows everyone going in for a group hug here. And I want to kind of show you what you can do. The good thing about having a lot in your frame is you can always crop in, tighten it up, and it still looks great. It's sharp, and I would probably come down on the exposure here a little bit, but you get the feeling that everyone's nice and tight. There's a lot of people there. Everyone's smiling. It's a great time. But if you wanted to show the whole picture, you can still... Why is this going so slow? You can still keep it nice and wide. So this one, same idea. It's nice and wide. You can see everything this person's wearing, from the mask to the shoes. You can see the rest of them coming in through the door here. You can see all these guys over here. And it doesn't limit you. You can always crop in on it. Let's see what we can come up with here. I don't know, say something like that. I don't know. Just messing around right now. Well, I don't know why this is... Oh, this is a JPEG, that's why. Well, you get the idea, You can always crop. Alrighty, so here's another reception photo. We have the groom hanging out with La Bamba from, I believe it's Conan O'Brien's band. Don't crucify me, I don't really watch that much TV, so I'm not sure. But you get the whole picture here. You get, this guy on the floor, you get La Bamba and the groom, you get this girl on the floor, this person is obviously shocked at what's going on. This person's feet, which is great. You get the whole thing here. And if you were to go a little bit tighter, you wouldn't get all of that in one photo. So that's a plus for the 14mm lens there. And here's the last one that I wanted to show you. You always get those times when people are like, hey, can you take a picture of us? Not my favorite thing, but you can execute with a 14mm lens just as well as you could with any other. You might not want all this empty negative space here. So what you can do is just, you take your photo. What I'll do is I'll take 3, 4, 5 shots and just adjust slightly my focal length on the lens so that I'm sure that I'm covering all the, kind of like bracketing your focal length, covering all the possibilities of missing focus, and I'm bound to get one in focus. So then what you can do is you can always crop, and once this clears up, look at that, perfect. Again, not the sharpest, but as that one commenter so eloquently and cleverly brought up, sharp enough to do the job. So there you go, the Bauer Rokinon Samyang 14mm f2.8 manual aperture, manual focus lens. I believe it's around 300 to 320 at most camera stores. If you get it online for a little bit cheaper, good for you. But yeah, it's perfect for reception. You can do a lot with it during the other times of the day. I don't, keep this on my camera at all times, but it is always great to have. You never know when you might need it, or you never know when you might be able to use it in a way that you didn't think you were going to be able to. Also do want to say it's really, 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 really good for astrophotography. That was one of the main reasons I bought it, and I decided to try it out at a wedding, and I found a whole new world of wedding photography that I had never really been interested in. So yeah, really good for astrophotography, pretty good for landscape and all that stuff. Has great contrast right out of camera. But anyway, yeah, thank you for watching. Subscribe if you want to keep learning more about this lens and all the other lenses and equipment that I use. If you haven't already, check out my What's in My Bag video. You can take a look at all my equipment, and if you have any questions about them, leave me a comment, send me an email, whatever you got to do, and I'll try to get a video up for you. Thanks again, guys. Take care.